Guys, it's been such a privilege. I've been here for about 9 months now. My wife and kids, fortunately, they're not here. We've had a really adventurous week with The Voice and other stuff. And then our kids said, well, that's not fair, Dad. I want pink eye. And so then they said, well, I don't get it. You get it. And they shared it. And so we've had just fun. It's been fun. I've been locked in a room for 4 days, saying to stay in there. Keep it to myself. So I know my wife, we just have been having a blast of everything that's been going on in Switchback in the last 2 months especially has been really exciting. Some things have just really solidified, not have been developed, but actually solidified. We've been hardening. Some relationships have been just really coming into place. But I want to jump right into my message. I was at a 6-hour training the other day for CPR and first aid. So none of you go down on me because this is not the week. I'm just kidding. Somebody else. All right. We were talking about something, though. We got into this thing. They were talking about shock, a person going into shock. And they started reading these symptoms off. It said anxiety, confusion, agitation, restlessness, dizziness or lightheadedness, cool, clammy, or sweaty skin that's pale or bluish, rapid, shallow breathing, nausea, changing levels of consciousness. Somebody else in the back yelled out, sounds like most teenagers these days. And we all broke off laughing because it was really funny and it's kind of true. But at the same time, I was laughing and I was looking around and the laughters went into eye rolls and it was yeah, it's just the teenagers today. Start going on this. And what I thought was a funny moment quickly turned into, oh man, you guys are the exact people I'm fighting against every week. The words that are coming out of your mouth right now is exactly what I'm up against and I am going to take you out. I just hope you know that. You know, we have these stigmas out there on our next generation or just young people in general saying, hey, if the decision is going to be left in their hands, we're all doomed. And I don't like that at all. I mean, I just don't feel like that really just goes against everything I'm working for. Why am I doing what I do if that would be true? Can I remind you of somebody in the Bible named David? Probably one of the most well-known Bible stories by people that don't even go to church, that don't know the word. David versus Goliath on there. You know, David was that kid that was picked last. He wasn't even picked last. He was told that he didn't exist, basically. You know, you got anybody else? Anybody? Nope. Nobody. No, I ain't got nobody. And they're like, really? You don't have nobody? All right, I have somebody back home. I didn't want to bring him up on this. I can bring him in. So they bring him in. And David, they're like, he's the one. This is it. David's like, I got this. I'll do it. And so they're like, all right, well, if you're going to do this, we'll give you the best armor that we can. And the king gave him his own armor and said, hey, go out there and fight this. You guys ever seen a small child in a dad's suit coat? And they're just swimming in it. And they're flopping around looking like those things in a car lot. Okay, that's the same thing when he put on that armor and he said, listen, this doesn't fit me. This is not going to work. This is never going to work for me. This is only going to hold me back. So he decided, listen, I know what God's given me. I've used it before and I'm going to go out there and I'll be just fine. So he stripped down and he went with what he was familiar with, that sling and a stone. And he went out there and did his business. You know, David's attitude wasn't, well, I'm too young to win, so it's not going to happen. His attitude he went out there with was confident, and he said, no, Goliath is too big for me to miss. He went out there knowing that it wasn't him that was releasing that rock, that it was God behind him that was finishing the job. He was just that instrument in there. How about Esther? When I was doing some research on Esther, she was in there. A lot of scholars believe she was a young woman. And when they say that, from what I can gather, it was from somewhere from 15 to 20. 15 to 20 years old, Esther is now queen. Esther was in there. She overheard some news that was going on, a declaration. And she decided, I have to save. I need to do something about this. And so she didn't save one Jew. She didn't save 10 Jews. She saved the Jews. She went out and she decided that I have to do something about this. She came to the realization that I am here for such a time as this. Those are the attitudes I want people to have of our students, of our teenagers, of all young people now. That they got Davids out there and we got Esthers out there in the high schools, in the middle schools, fighting things off that they can take. They don't see any issues with it because they know that they got God behind them and a whole church behind them on here. This morning, I want to talk about what we're doing consistently. Consistency. What is our consistency? I was ministering this one time to a group of leaders. They were youth workers in another church, and I got to go up there and speak with them. And I was talking to them about the difference between two words that I choose very specifically to use in a certain way. The difference between a volunteer and a leader. A volunteer is a person that just willingly does a task. A leader is a person that changes lives, that guides, that navigates, that leads, that's a shoulder to cry on, that's a support, that's a cheerleader. There's a difference between the two. Well, this lady stands up and she says, listen, we're in a round table discussion, and she's just like, listen, I just worked the snack bar. And that's really all I want to do. I don't want to be a leader. I just want to work the snack bar. I said, okay, well, let me ask you a few questions. I said, do you do it every week? Yes. Do you do it with a smile on your face? Yes. Do you talk to the students? Yes. Do you ask about their lives? Yes. Do they ask about your lives? Yes. I said, did you know you're more consistent in some of their lives than their own parents are? It's a sad thing to talk about, but it's true. I've worked in a few youth ministries, and I've worked at a behavioral hospital, which I've got to see the worst of the worst at that point. I got to see where the people in front of me have never had a consistent person or any form of consistency in their life at all, and now are just in a place of survival at any way that they can figure it out. Well, my heart is to show them consistency, to show up and be there for them on there. I'm so tired of fighting with people on the fact of, well, our youth are helpless, are hopeless. They're just spoiled brats. They're not, and there's times that they can be. I don't know, were y'all young before at one time? We all a bunch of oldies in here? No, I mean, I can still be a brat. My wife tells me all the time, I'm sure, behind my back. I'm just kidding. She says it to my face. Guys, the mentality that we get at, though, is we're all doomed. And that's when I want to respond to all these people, but it's not out of love that I would never say this. So I want to be like, oh, Lord, I'm so sorry that you've made it all these years, and now they finally did it. They broke you. No, he's not broken. There's no generation that is just going to shatter him on this. Like, come on, who are we talking about here? The consistency of God is to show up in our lives day in and day out and show us love and mercy and grace constantly. He's always pouring into us. So we don't have to be worried about God not making it through. God's got it. He's in control. We just need to be there to support and help. These two, David and Esther's, these people, they didn't just go out there all by themselves. They did have some people that were for them, and they had some support on there. My question is, are you there? Are you supporting anyone? Are you growing anyone? Are you just there cheering someone on? In 7th grade, my life was changed forever. I met a friend that took me to church, and his mom decided, well, you live in our neighborhood, you be ready at this time, and I will pick you up every Wednesday. I'm just telling you right now, if you're outside and we knock on your door and you're ready to go, we'll go. Let's go to church. And she consistently did this with me for a long period of time. Well, it got to the place where church was like my salvation place. It was it was a a place of refuge. It was a place of way from getting from the house. You know, I didn't live this crazy, horrible life, but I didn't have Disneyland of homes on there. Lived in a single mother's home, had a lot of pressure, had different things that not every student have, but I do know a lot of students today go through as well. The support that I was given from this person in my life changed my life forever. And obviously she led me to a place where Jesus became the Lord of my life and changed me forever. And in this fact is, I don't think I would be standing here today if it wasn't for somebody like that pouring into my life. You know, she didn't have the attitude of, hey, go figure it out on your own. You're worthless. You don't have anything to offer. No, she brought me in and she said, listen, I will pick you up. She got to the point, this was her heart. She got to the point, she said, listen, now we got enough people, I can't fit in my car. So what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead. She started going while we were in school to the church, picking up the 15-passenger van, bringing it home, picking up all the kids in the neighborhood now, and taking us to church. And then it turned into, hey guys, we're going to have to start going to church a lot earlier because I have another neighborhood of kids that want to get picked up. So I'm going to go ahead and take you guys first, and then I'm going to go pick them up, and then I'll come back. And then she would take them home first and then come back and get us. This mom took it all upon herself and just asked the church, can I use your van? And just started picking it up. Now she's like picking up 20-something kids at a time. I grew up in a church where on a Wednesday night, we had 30 adults and 120 teenagers. We were killing it. And we ended up flipping buildings with them because we needed more space. We're legitimately in something smaller than the youth center over here with 120 on there. We were cramming. It smelled so bad. I cannot even tell you. It smelled horrible. But, you know, God was moving. And what it was is when we got in there, we just kept growing these relationships and building off of each other. And this core group of students came together. And what ended up happening was, hey, it's Friday night. You guys want to do something? Yeah, okay. So doing something with your group of friends isn't like, hey, the 6 of us are going to go out. It would be the 30 of us are going somewhere. That was the core. 30 people at all times. So when I got my license, you know, God had touched my life and had brought me through so much and got me somewhere. I'm like, guess what? In my 91 Dodge Spirit, called the Holy Spirit, I'm going to lift that center console up and put that 6th person right there because there's a seatbelt for them. We're all getting in. So 6 deep, we rode everywhere, hanging out, building our relationships with each other and going. Guys, the consistency of my leaders in my life changed my life. And what was crazy about it, there was a lot that happened that I didn't know about until I got older and I really realized it. Their consistency grew faithfulness in me. It taught me what it was to be faithful. It taught me what it was to be victorious. These relationships were great examples for me to lean in on. Talking back about this leader that was talking to me, that saying, oh, I just work in the snack bar. I came back and I was saying, you are more consistent in these teenagers' lives than maybe some of their home lives are. You have no idea what you're doing. When they're asking you about how your life is going, you have no idea that they're not asking to try to see that there's hope than more than what the life they're currently living on a day-to-day basis. They're looking for, please just give me a chance to know that my life could be better than this. And she starts crying. She had no idea the impact that she was having on the people that she thought she was selling Skittles to. She was making a difference. She did it with a smile on her face consistently, week after week. I want to encourage you guys today to get involved and to be involved in something and not only do it, but do it consistently and watch the lives around you become impacted because they do. Their lives will change. These people will grow. Where's so-and-so today? Why aren't they here? You become a void in their life, a missing piece They need you in those spots. I need you here on Sunday morning. My life doesn't feel complete without you here on this Sunday morning. You know, she then said, I didn't think I had anything to offer as a leader. And that hit me really big. And it wasn't until a few years later that I put some other stuff that I went through in my own life back together with something with this. And it was found in Colossians 3, verses 23. It says, work willingly at whatever you do as though you are working for the Lord rather than for people. And I came to the realization that we all have something on the inside of us, stuff that we're not aware of, stuff that it's not something that you're going to learn. It's something that you're going to develop. It's already in you. You have what it takes. And God wants you to use what you have right then. And we're always worried about what people are going to think about us. We need to be more concerned that we're working and doing everything unto Him. And when we're doing that, the lives that we're touching is just more than you could ever imagine. This lady was crying because she wasn't sad. She was coming to the realization that God had been using her the entire time. And that, in fact, she was no longer a volunteer, that she had been leading the entire time. Leading with consistency is not based on the circumstances that you're in or that you went through. It's about knowing that Jesus is Lord. Moses did not sacrifice his leading because of the circumstances he was surrounded by. Joseph, one of my favorite people in the Bible, did not change who he was or the vision God gave him because of the circumstances he was going through. Joseph was sold by his brothers into slavery. He was put into slavery here. He was locked up here. He was brought out of jail and then put back in it, then put over the jail and then put over Egypt. And then in the end was there to provide for his brothers. He was there. He never lost focus. He was consistent all the way through everything that God had given to him. Consistency is so important, and I think it's so needed with our students these days. But not just our students, but with everybody that we come into contact with. We live in a very inconsistent society where people aren't used to having normal, straight, plain people. They're used to seeing people up and down on a roller coaster of life. Well, are you on a high today or are you on a low today? Where Jesus is always that constant. He is always through. Are we reflecting Him in our lives? Are we allowing Him to shine through us on there? If you're not involved in something, I hope today's message is something that is sparking something or planting a seed growing in you, saying where you used to face, hey, I didn't think I had what it took to get somewhere, to volunteer, to be a leader, but you do. And I hope today that seed's planted, that you know that leadership is growing in your life. And for some of you, you may say, hey, listen, I am not in a place to lead any person's life. But maybe you're in a place to lead somebody's car into the right parking spot. Or to lead them to the co-op to get to the next class. Or to get them into our building. Hey, if you didn't know this is where it was, I had a visitor lady the other day come in, and she came in, service had already started, so it had cleared out, and she's like, is this a church? I said, yeah, you're in the right place. This is it right here. You know, I wasn't changing her lives, but I was leading her to a place that could. You know, you just work with what you have right now. Be willing to use it. So if you have any interest after hearing this message, I really, really encourage you to get out to Next Steps and ask them, hey, how do I get involved? And be honest. Say, I'm just not ready to lead, but parking lot, I can rock that. That is my jam, man. If I can just smile at somebody from a distance and not have to shake their hand. Don't make it look like you're hurting. That's not part of it. Don't look like you're hurting. Make it a good smile. So I want to leave you with one other thing. With consistency that we find in the Bible. In First Thessalonians, it talks about that we should pray without ceasing. Constantly. We should consistently be praying. It's important to have that consistency in your life. When you're walking in those moments, it's those things that you become in a place where God can use you to lead other people into things. It leads you to be able to speak something into someone's life that they need life right now because death is right there. Then I love what David says in Psalms, because we know David was a man after God's own heart. In Psalms, he says, his praises will ever be on my lips. If we can talk about God's praises being constantly there, walking around with a life full of praise, the reflection that we're going to show, the happiness that we're going to bring, the joy that we're reflecting for people is going to shine and be an example for people to want to follow. It's that hope the world is looking for.